What if scaling your business to 2 billion meant walking the razor's edge of unstoppable growth and total collapse? My guest today, Chris Ball, unpacks the strategies and brutal realities of what it took to build his financial firm to over 2 billion in AUM. Grab your notebooks, let's dive in. You're How long have you been in Dubai?
So I've been in Dubai. Well, I've been in the Middle East since 2011. So I
Okay.
moved out here 31st of August 2011, and then I moved. I was in Abu Dhabi, which is
Yeah.
actually the capital of the United Arab Emirates, and then I moved up to Dubai during COVID in 2020.
Okay. And I know that you do business in several different countries. I'm sure we'll get to that. But what about Dubai? What about the Middle East has kept you there for so long?
It's just a really good location, to be honest. I mean, look, being a Brit, I don't suffer the same tax rules as you guys. So if I'm not resident, I don't get taxed. And obviously, the Middle East is, well, Dubai and the United Arab Emirates is 0% tax. So there is no income tax. They've just recently brought in corporation tax, but there is no income tax. So it's very, very tax efficient to be based. It's safe. There's not hardly any crime that you would stumble across. You can leave your front door and your windows open all the time. I've got young children, so that works really well. And it's generally quite a nice place to live. The temperature is nice, much better than England, that's for sure. And yeah, it's center of the world as well in terms of you can get everywhere in one flight. So I can get over to the US direct, I can get to Australia direct, I can get to Europe direct, UK direct. So
Yeah.
it's good for transportation as well.
Yeah,
Have you
I've
been?
said that easy about Kansas City. Like I'm right in the middle. I can get to all these places within just a quick flight. But all my locations were in the United States. Yours are all over the world. A little different there. You're doing business though all over the world. Tell me kind of how that unfolded a little bit. I know you got this giant business and you've made a lot of moves, and I want to ask you some questions about some of those things. But
Mm.
you know, you're if you can think back to before it was international, and then maybe the one catalyst that created this international management of funds and assets that you have now, what was that catalyst, do you think?
Yeah, so so we started the business in 2011, and it was predominantly to service people that were, so we started the business in 2018. I moved out here in 2011, but when I moved out in 2011, we was predominantly servicing or looking after people that were in the same situation as me. So lived in the UK and had now moved to the Middle East. And surprisingly, there is a lot of people in that situation globally. And what they find is it's really difficult for them to deal with their wealth when they are local. Like if I'm in the UAE as a Brit, I don't really want to leave all my money here. I probably want to get more of my money back home. But because I'm not resident, it's more difficult for me to manage back in the
Sure.
UK. So, there becomes this need where you need advice, but you can't get it. And that's why we decided really to lean into it. A lot of the people that were doing it prior to what we were doing were focused on big upfront commissions. They take a big payment upfront and not a lot ongoing. And as you probably know, in the US and in the UK, it's much more of a kind of an annualized or annuity style of fee that you would charge the client. So you wouldn't be commission based, you would be fee based. You
Right.
would charge a percentage of the assets that you manage on a yearly basis. And that means people's interests are aligned. I'm not getting a big upfront and I'll never speak to you again.
Right.
You're doing well, you're going to keep me gainfully employed as your advisor. You do better, my fee is more because you're doing better. So it's much more of it's much better outcome, I would say, for clients to be managed that way. So
Yeah.
that's the model that we decided to do. And because we were fairly new and we didn't have any legacy issues, a lot of people saw what we were doing and were like, wow, actually that works really well for me, clients and advisors who'd been looking for that and maybe hadn't found it yet. So we was
Sure.
able to, gather in, number one, some great human capital in terms of the advisors and the support staff that we have. And then secondly, we was obviously attracting a lot of clients because they don't want to pay big upfront commissions to advisors and never to see
Right.
them again. They want to work with someone on an ongoing basis on planning and work with qualified people in the jurisdictions they are. So, we kind of grew it that way.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think? Like, I mean, a lot of people think of a financial advisor and there's like a little bit of disdain, like a little bit of like, maybe it's the, upfront commission and then they never talk to me again, or maybe it's just, the person that I rarely talk to. There's just all these kind of different thoughts, that aren't high quality, right? Around a financial
Mm.
advisor. What's different about you guys? How do you guys kind of break through the noise of that?
So a lot of it, I mean, like most service-based business, it's relationship-led. So if you have a great relationship, with you're my client, and I have a great relationship with you, then actually the service normally comes before returns. In the world that we invest in today, if you are an aggressive investor, you're going to be invested in 100% equities, and I'm probably going to invest you in a mixture of global equity indexes. So we're tracking the index. If the market goes up, you're going to go up. If it goes down, you're going to go down. So it's not really down to me how well the underlying investments are performing. You will struggle to beat the index over time. But what people don't do is they don't communicate well with their clients. They don't speak to them. They
Right.
don't have follow up things like their birthday or their wife or husband's birthday, or their how their children are doing. All these little things that make a meaningful relationship, they just don't do. And that's what we try and install in the advisors is, yes, people want a good service, or they want low fees, and they want good returning portfolio, but what they're really buying is the relationship with you and with us as a business, and it's really trying to develop that, and that means you get long-term sticky clients.
Yeah, for sure. And you've done this for a long time, and so I'm sure you've got maybe some hacks here around your client experience. But some of the things that you mentioned are great. What what's the strategy around genuine relationships? I mean, a lot of people give the answer of relationships are sticky, right? Relationships are
Mm,
everything. People buy people, not necessarily the service, and all those things are true. But there's like tactics inside of that, and of course, sending a birthday card. Okay, that's a tactic, but you
yeah,
know what? What's the genuine piece for you? Because we're in 2024, people know if you're being someone that you're not. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I mean, you've got number one, exactly that, not be fake. You have to be real with the people that you're dealing with. If I come on and start talking with an American accent to try and be the same as you, I'm going to sound pretty stupid. So you obviously have to be real with the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
I find that genuinely remembering things about if we've had a conversation and you said to me, "Oh, I'm going on holiday," and then the next time I speak to you, I ask about the holiday, and I show a genuine interest.
Yeah.
It's those small subconscious things that build up relationships over time. It's the small bits. It's the small things that matter. I find going to see people. Obviously, you and I are talking now over the internet, but and that's a great way to communicate, and not everyone wants to see everyone all of the time. We can communicate like this a couple of times a year, but maybe every other year, if I come and see you face to face and I take you out for a lunch, which sounds a bit prehistoric now, or dinner, or meet your family, etc.,
Yeah.
that builds a relationship there. And I think that's what a lot of people forget about now. It's how many Zoom calls or how many Teams calls can I book in a day? How much can I do over the internet, which is great, but you never get that same relationship as if I sit across the dinner table with you and have a chat about your life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. We do the same kind of concept, or at least the promotion of in-person stuff with our mastermind community, Gathering the Kings, because we do a lot on Zoom. I mean, we meet
Mm,
every week, every month, every quarter, whatever. There's lots of going on in the community. And that's good. You can get to know people like this. But I remember several years ago we did our first in-person event, and there was, 7, 8, 9 folks that had kind of launched with us that first year, and we had been doing Zoom, getting to know each other, talking about business, talking about family, all the stuff. And then we, 6, 7 months later after we had launched, we got together for the first time in person, and it was just another level. Now, have you ever felt this feeling where you've been building a relationship with somebody like this on Zoom or on the internet, and you've gotten to know them pretty good, but then when you see them, it's the first time you've actually seen them, or for me, put my big bear paws around them, give them a big hug. That just is a totally different feeling, because I know this person, but I'm just meeting them for the first time in person. You know what I mean? You know that feeling?
yeah, I know that feeling for sure. Well, I don't have that problem with the big bear paws because I'm about 5'7", so it's deceiving. It's when you see someone and they're much bigger than you expected, much taller than you
Yeah,
expected, or much shorter than you expected, probably in my case.
that's
So
right.
it is nice, and do you know what, you once you've met someone, the next time you speak to them on the Zoom call or on the Teams call,
It's different.
you feel a lot more connected anyway.
Yeah, it's so good. Okay, so you've scaled your business from basically scratch to over 2 billion in assets under management. Give me give me the roadmap. What were the, one, two, three things that allowed for that to happen? I mean, you're not a silver fox, you're not in your 70s and you've built this incredible financial business. You've done it rather fast.
Yeah.
What have been the building blocks?
Yeah, look, I think the building blocks initially were getting good people around me straight away. And I know, again, that kind of sounds a bit cliche, but outsourcing the things that wasn't good at sooner rather than later was key to us being able to scale at pace.
For you,
My
what were
background is yeah. Sorry, what was that?
what were those things that you outsourced quickly?
So I got in a marketing director pretty quick. Then I got in an operations director who then turned into be my compliance director. I then got in someone in my finance team. So I started building out all of the bits that I wasn't necessarily great with. And it was actually more around the support functions as opposed to
Sure.
the financial advice. But so my background is I'm an accountant. I started my career at KPMG. So, I understood how business worked, which I think a lot of people don't. And I think a lot of people, when they first start, try and do too much for too long. And actually, you're better to almost forward invest and try and bring some of those key hires further forward. I'm good at the sales bit, maybe not so good at the operational bit. So therefore, I'll focus on the sales and I'll bring someone in to help me with the operations. And that's what enabled us to scale at a pace, is having, five heads are better than one.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think I mean, finding incredible people, several key positions like that didn't just happen
Mm.
in one little swoop or all at once. How long did that take you? What was the challenge in that?
So I got really lucky with the people that I hired, like super, super lucky, and it was by pure fluke as well. It wasn't down to my insane recruitment abilities. So Alan, he was leaving. He's my marketing director. He was leaving the job where he was at, highly experienced, and I just kind of stumbled across him. I was telling a recruiter, "I'm looking for this kind of role, and do they know anyone?" He was like, "Oh, you should go and meet this person." By pure fluke, he'd
Yeah,
happened to work in the same industry, had the experience that I was looking for. Like, it was kind of like a
yeah,
match made in heaven.
yeah,
Second guy, I knew him from another business, and I knew him to be good. And my finance director, the weirdest thing, someone I hadn't spoken to in 12 years, reached out to me on Instagram and said, "I've got someone who is wanting to move out to Dubai. Would you mind meeting up with him?" Had a chat with him. He was what we was looking for, and he moved out. Like, it was like, but then I've had some horrendous hires as well. So it's
sure.
not, it's not all sunshine and roses. But it was just pure fluke that these three really influential people in our business that helped us grow insanely quickly,
Yeah,
came around. But then I think also that's kind of putting it out there and looking for these people maybe just a bit before you're ready, because you never know what comes along at different times. It's almost that kind of manifesting, isn't it? Where you say something in it and it becomes true.
yeah. What would you say to the listener who, maybe knows that they need to hire or knows that they want to grow, but doesn't feel like they can hire? Just the situation that you were just describing where maybe they're a little head and they're a little nervous about that. Like, if
Yeah.
I put it out, then if I find the right person and then I'm gonna have to hire them, and then what would you say to that person listening?
It's a weird one because I work very well under pressure. So if I'm under pressure and I'm not comfortable, not coasting, I'll do better. So I feel that where you grow is kind of on that knife edge between completely uncomfortable, and kind of well, complete disaster almost. You've got to push yourself.
Yeah,
Obviously, what you don't want to be doing is making decisions that are kind of irreversible as well. So how I look at it is, and it was after I read something from Bezos, and Bezos has a one-way door and two-way doors. So one-way door means you go through it and you can't come back. Two-way door means you can go through it and you can come back. So a hire really is a two-way door because if they're rubbish and it's not working after a month or two, you can always get rid and they can leave.
yep,
So it's realizing that these people don't necessarily have to be with you for the rest of your life. But that being said, you shouldn't hire willy nilly and you shouldn't just give people a go, because ultimately your time and effort goes into them. But if you feel it's right and you've
right.
done the due diligence on them, and it might be a bit of a stretch, then sometimes a bit of pressure makes you go a bit harder and go a bit quicker.
Yeah, I agree, and I think most entrepreneurs probably work that way. I think that the putting themselves out there, especially when it comes to the hire, is they think of maybe like an annual salary when, at the end of the day, maybe it's only 90 days. You said it's a two-way door. I love that description too. What other two-way doors are there as you've been building? Give me some other examples of that. I think that's a really great description.
Two-way doors. I mean, look, we're in a service-based business, so a lot of the two-way doors are down to hires. We also experimented with technology a lot as well. Obviously, technology, encompasses all of our lives way more than it did when I started my career back in 2004.
Yeah.
Now, unless you're able to see your investments real time on your phone, you're not even in the game. It's like, you have to be able to give people information quickly, and people
Yep.
want to make decisions. Like, someone will be watching your podcast now sat at home on the sofa in their pants. It's kind of like that's how people want to consume things. They don't want to be sat in their suit in front of a bank manager talking about their finances. So we invested heavily into technology because, I'm, as you said, I'm not a silver fox yet, and ultimately we saw that was the way that the world was going. So that enabled us to scale faster as well. Now, it's a big commitment in terms of cash. But again, if it's not working, I can always not do it. We can always shelve it or get rid of it. We don't have to keep doing it.
Yep.
So that was something that we invested heavily into, and I think that the rewards for that as a business have been really good, and it's given us this kind of base that we can build off really
Yeah.
nicely now. The platform.
Hey, Kings and Queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other grow.
What do you think technology? I mean, I love that because you guys, you kind of talk about, I think you have a tagline where your firm is where technology meets tradition. Is that kind of like a tagline of your guys'?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Tradition meeting technology for you? How does that look as I would experience it inside of your organization as a client?
I mean, one of my frustrations, I don't know about you, is that if I deal with let's say a fintech business and I've got a problem, there's only some like chat function that I can talk to someone that's a robot, and then I've got to request an agent, and then the agent might not get back to me for 2 hours, and they
So
probably don't know
frustrating.
what they're talking about. So it's it's enabling advisors through technology. Now, I do believe that with the development of AI, and also with the development of investment platforms, and as people, we kind of get out of this boomer phase and we're into millennials, and people are becoming more savvy with technology, that we will move from people that want to speak to someone to
Yeah.
someone that purely wants to deal with an application, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And especially when if you're dealing with, I don't know, 10, 15, $20,000 and just making a random investment on Robinhood or something like that, then okay, you probably don't need to speak to someone. But when you're dealing with a couple of $1 million that you've put away in your 401k, you want to see the whites of someone's eyes, and actually you want them to tell you that it's going to be okay and that what you're doing is good, and I've got this, don't worry. Like, you
Yep.
still need that, or a lot of people do still need that. So we try and blend it. We try and give you all of your information available on using technology, try and make it seamless for you in terms of your experience. But there's always someone to talk, be it over a video call, or be it face to face, or over the telephone, whatever way people like to communicate. So you don't lose that personal touch. You still feel like there's someone at the end of the line, which I think a lot of technology businesses or pure technology businesses miss. And when you're dealing with people's wealth, it's an important part.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about, the just demographics of your clients, my guess would be that they're older, because that's when you have, a couple $1 million to invest. And so, yeah, you've got to cater to a boomer generation. More, you're going to have to do that longer than, other companies that are servicing, millennials or even younger generations. What is an example of one of the closed doors that you've gone through that you couldn't go back on?
They're normally regulatory closed doors. So it's like, if you do something that is not, I don't know, you do something that you're not meant to from in a regulatory capacity, then that's normally a one-way door. You're not coming back out of that. You can't just back out of it.
Right.
You've done what you're not meant to do. So that's kind of stuff that you have to be super careful with and think,
All the way through.
think about over the longer run, because it is very, very hard to get out of those things. And it's time, it's energy, it's number one, you always want to try and do the right thing anyway, but you have to be super careful when you're dealing with global regulators.
Yeah, that's understandable. What, just kind of on that vein of giving a description of a closed door or a one-way door, what's been just a challenge that you guys have had through the scaling process? I mean, I know you said you had some, bad hires and stuff, but when you go from 0 to 2 billion in assets, like
Mm.
that's like hockey stick type growth. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of challenges that come with growth, no matter what. They often don't get spoken about. What's the first thing that comes to your mind as far as like, ooh, that's been
Yeah,
rough?
I think recruitment is one of them. That I think that is the hardest thing. And I used to think as well culture. So I used to think culture was this kind of fluffy word that I didn't really buy into. But I soon found out how a negative culture can impact your business.
Yeah.
And a lot of when you scale quickly, it's very easy to give people a go. So I've got to hire people in quick. So my recruitment process will be quick to cater for that. Whereas actually, what you want to do is take the best person that you can get for that role. Because ultimately, what happens? You give someone a go. They're 50% right. They may do well. They may not do well. More times than not, if they're 50% right, then not 100% not right. And therefore, you put time and energy into training them, bringing them through, and their expectations don't align with yours, and then they go. They've been there for 6 months or whatever. It doesn't work out, and they're gone. And then you have to start that process again.
Yeah.
Double the effort because you've got to train two people now instead of getting it right the first time. So that was something. And then also, the culture piece, really aligning and setting out our values at the start is something I wish I'd done. Like what's really important to me. And I know that I like people that are hardworking. This isn't a 9 to 5 environment. It's not flexi time. I like people in the office. I like people that have got a growth mindset, and I have no time for people who play political games, egos, all of that kind of stuff. I wish I communicated that to everyone from the start. And
Sure.
actually, the people that I talked about that I hired initially, really lucky because they were all three. But then other people that I've hired have been one of, at least one, maybe two of those, or don't tick the box on two of those three. So that was important, but that was more my fault because I wasn't communicating what I wanted at the start. So I was trying to sell to them why it was a good place to work, as opposed
Right.
to being brutally honest and them going, "Hell yeah, I want to work for you,"
Yeah.
instead of going, instead of me trying to not pull the wool over their eyes, but oh yeah, we can do this or we can be accommodating there, and no, it's like this is the way we do things. This is the culture that we have. You either will shine on that or it's not for you, and that's cool as
Right.
well. Um, so that's been they've been some challenges that I've had to face and grow up with as we've got bigger.
I can remember hiring, inside salespeople. And, the requirement was to, dial 150, 200, 300 calls a day. And it's like, you assume that when you interview for a position like that, but if you don't say that, and again, you're trying to, kind of butter it up, make it look like a great opportunity, and it could be an amazing opportunity for the right individuals. And so if I'm not honest about like, hey dude, like you're going to come in early, you're going to stay late, you're going to work, you're going to dial 300 plus times a day. You're going to be absolutely obsessed with making phone calls and setting up appointments and closing deals. And that's the only way that this looks like an amazing opportunity. And what do you think about that? What do you think about basically, living on the phone and being just crushed if you don't, like you're going to not get what you want. And like you said, kind of painting that, not like in a wrong picture, like trying to make them say no, but kind of, like I want to show you all the goods and all the bads. In fact, I want to really, really harp on all the bads of the job. And if you still want it, then we're probably going to be good for a long, long time. You want to give like a specific example of something that you've said in an interview?
Now that I say to people, is that the main one is that, look, if you're going to be running the door at 8:30 and you're going to be expecting to leave at 5:30, like, this isn't the job for you. This isn't the company. I've been in here since 6:30 this morning. It's 6:30 at night. I've got a couple of calls after you. We're going till 8:30, 9 o'clock most nights. So it is pretty hard. It is hard working and it is demanding. And if flexibility is key, then it's not for you. We also have a marketing team as well, where we expect them to make a certain amount of outbound dials a day from the leads and that come in. And ultimately, again, their expectations, if you're thinking you're going to make 50 to 60 dials a day, it's not going to cut it. It's 150 plus, same as you. So that's what's expected, and we're expecting you to prospect as well. So for the advisors, we're not going to give you a load of clients and they just land on your lap. You've got to go out and get these clients, and this is how you're going to have to do it. Are you up for that or not? Because if you're not up for it, this isn't the right opportunity for you. And some people, some people now, I've become a lot more vocal with that on LinkedIn, because what I want is for people to look at LinkedIn and go, well, I don't really like that guy. Or actually, the one that goes, wow, I really want to do that. That sounds really good. Exactly like you said. You're not trying to scare people away, but you're just being brutally honest. And you'll get that diamond that does want to work for you, that's game changing. The others you were never going to be the others you were never going to be suited to anyway.
Right.
So it's also super nice to hear that other people have the same problems as well.
Yeah, well, I think the sales or outbound, very specific. I mean, there can be other support roles that maybe aren't as demanding, but you just can't. Especially as a young professional, you can't expect to come into a role like that where you're outbound, you're making phone calls, you're responding to leads, prospecting on your own to find your own leads. Like, that just takes a certain gumption and some cojones to like really just go after it. And I just have never seen it really work for folks that don't have that. And that's okay. Like, there's other roles. I mean, we use the predictive index, a hiring assessment, to really help us, assess and make sure people are in the right seat and all the fun stuff. And we, do that with all of our members. But so I've seen lots of different personalities do well in that type of environment, but you still have to have some immense drive, because it's not like, you're a slave driver, Chris. It's like, this is just what it takes to be successful in this industry. And so
Yeah.
let's just talk about what it's going to take. And if that doesn't work, that's okay. Go find something else that's different. But if you would be wasting your time, you'd be wasting my time if we did it not like this recipe. You know what I mean?
Definitely, 100%. And that's it. I think that's the point, isn't it? It's not just not fair on you. It's not fair on them if you're not being upfront and honest with what it actually takes at the start, because it is wasting their time. Could be 6 months of their life that they aren't enjoying what they're doing because they thought it was slightly different.
Yeah. And there's certain people who will, it's so funny. I've seen this happen. They'll try to convince themselves. Like, so as a person, interviewing at your company, and I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm excited about maybe making a certain amount of money. I'm excited about the prestige of working with your firm. Like, there's a lot of reasons why I have a bias towards wanting to work for you. I'm drawn to something, and I'll overlook the fact that I've got to come in early, stay late, or make a lot of phone calls, or whatever the requirements are. But if the person in front of me, you, is going, hey, Chaz, so, like, I know that this is an outbound salesperson, but man, this is hard and it's not for everybody. We make hundreds of phone calls every single day, and you got to get your own leads, and you got to come early, you got to stay late. And hey, I saw on here that you've got a young family. Is staying until 9 p.m. really the best for you? Like, almost, again, trying to convince them otherwise. And then really what they'll do is they'll actually think about it and go, actually, you know what? That's not the best fit for me. Thank goodness we figured that out here. And
Yeah.
not just this cognitive bias of, no, that's fine. I'll work it out. 3 months later, they're like, I can't do this. That's just a waste of everybody's time, like you were saying. So, speaking of just like scale and growth and change, you moved, we've already talked about this, from the UK to Dubai, and you brought your family with you during that process. And so,
I was single actually at the time.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so I've read about this transition, with your family. Is that maybe just you started having the family in Dubai?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly
Got it.
that.
Okay.
Exactly that.
So let's talk about just this family dynamic then. Obviously, you're building this huge company, this very fast scaling. You're there a lot. What does that
Mm.
look like for the family dynamic in the midst of all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Getting that balance right is difficult, but I think that comes with your partner and them getting what you do. So, like the glue that holds my family together is my wife. My wife doesn't work and she is 100% there for our children all the time. Had she wanted to, go and off and do things on her own, we probably would, probably wouldn't have had kids. It would have been, it'd have been different. But she has always been super, super, super supportive. And that's it. It's like, if she wouldn't enable me to do what I do, then I wouldn't be able to do it. If I had someone that was making my life a misery at home because I was working late, I probably wouldn't work as late. But the fact is that she's supportive, and again, I'll rock in tonight, 8:30 ish. I'll have some dinner. I'll say I'm knackered. I want to go to bed because I get up super early. She's not sitting there, huffing and moaning, and she might make a small comment every now and again. No one's perfect, but
Yeah.
she's got my back, and she understands that why we're doing this is not just for me. It's for our family, and gets that part of it. But having a supportive partner is not to be underestimated. And that's been the key. I wish I was at home more sometimes, but I really like what I do. So I do find it tough to turn off, like I imagine most people do when they're really in tune with their business, and they love what they do as well. It's hard to hit that off switch. You're on with it the whole time. But yeah, I feel like I've got 3 kids. I've got twins that are 12. I've got a 7-year old. When I'm with them, I try and spend quality time. I don't, I'm not sat there on my phone when I'm watching them play football, or, if we go and do something, I'm not, trying to, not, kind of fobbing them off, or just sat at home watching TV. I want to spend time with them when I'm there. So that's what we try and do when I'm around. But yeah, I definitely could be around more. But it's a lifestyle choice though. At the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to have both. And to those people that can do it, my hats are off, and kudos to them.
Yeah, I think you actually gave a great description of not necessarily it's never it's never weighted equally in time, right? Like as an entrepreneur, I'm always going to spend more time in the business in comparison to time with my wife or time with my kids or time at the gym or time sleeping. And probably the sleeping probably is the number two, you know? And so, and that's okay. I think that's where people kind of misunderstand the, quote unquote balance. It's like, well, the balance never actually existed. What you said was when I'm with my kids, I'm super intentional. When I'm with my wife, I'm intentional. And so I think that that's actually probably the better description. And, like the little comments, it's like, okay, cool. Like time for me to pay a little closer attention, right? It's not necessarily always more time. It's the quality of the time that is, in the equation, right? And you would probably say the same thing about your business. If you were just at the office but weren't really doing work related things, how could the business be successful and growing, right? Like you're there and
Exactly.
you're all in, you're obsessed, you're focused. So why not be like that, over the top obsessed with your wife or with your kids or with your health or all the other things that we can press into. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's exactly that. You hit the nail on the head there. It's about being present and making sure that you spend the quality of time when you're there, not just, not being intentional. I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. You have several pieces out that talk about just like the traits of good business people. And obviously you have
Mm.
your business people are financial advisors and you have a lot of them and you're, I'm sure, training them up in these traits. But what are some good business people traits that you are aware of?
Normally find is discipline. It's easy to be great when the going's good. It's not easy to be great when the going is tough. And
Yep.
that's where a lot of people fold and fail. I normally find super successful people are super disciplined with what they do. And normally what I find, especially with what we do, is that they are disciplined in all aspects of their life. So a good test for me normally with financial advisors is if they have played sport to a high level. They normally have the discipline because they're used to training, they're used to doing things when they don't necessarily want to do them. They're used to putting in the hours, they get it. If they go to the gym and they look after themselves, if they eat right, all of those things are discipline, and they all factor into success, personally, personally and through business. So discipline is one of the main things I think that makes people successful.
Yeah. And so you kind of gave us a slight definition there. I want to press on that a little bit. So discipline to you is the ability to keep going when the thing's not easy anymore, or to do the hard things. And it sounded like to be willing to do things that maybe other people aren't, to train at a high level, to practice more than others. Like, anything else you want to add there for the listener around, like, what does discipline mean to Chris?
Yeah, I mean, look, discipline to me is sacrifice as well. There's, like I said, there's going to be times when things are easy, and it's the times when you don't want to give anything and you eke out maybe 70% or 80%. If you're 100% going to 110%, it's a 10% gain. If you don't want to do anything and you don't do anything, that's 0%, versus if you crank out 70 or 80%,
Right.
then you've made a 70 or 80% gain. And doing that over time really makes a difference. One of the things that I did was, and I'm not saying people should do this, but it really excelled my business and it excelled me, was I gave up alcohol. So I stopped drinking alcohol from the first of January 2019 until probably August of 2020. So it was for a sustained period of time, and what it did was, yes, you obviously there's the clear health benefits of not drinking, great, but what
Right.
it did was I was on it all day every day. I didn't wake up with a hangover. I didn't wake up feeling groggy and not wanting to do stuff. I was on it for over a year and a half, every single day, not necessarily working, but my mind was on it. There wasn't, I wasn't waking up feeling groggy. I was looking forward to going to the office on Monday rather than, oh, I wish I could just stay in bed. Like all of those things over a longer period of time, like a year and a half, really start to stack up. And that had a real sustained impact on me and on my business. I do have a couple of beers every now and again, but very, very rarely will I get drunk. And I find that really helps again with my focus. Now, for a lot of people, that's tough because a lot of people drink socially and they enjoy it, and I get
Yep.
it, it's fun and all the rest of the stuff. But it's making sacrifices like that over the longer run, even if it's something that you like doing, but
Yeah.
is bad for you. Like there's
Yeah.
so many different examples of it that people that I feel people struggle with, and that hinders their success over time.
Yeah. It's self-sabotage, ultimately, right? If if we're consciously choosing something that doesn't serve us,
Hmm.
there's no other insertion other than self-sabotage, right? Because you actually gave the back side of it. It's when I didn't have it, I was on every day.
Hmm.
Holy smokes. And so now when Chris is presented with an alcoholic drink, he thinks, do I want to be on tomorrow, or do I not want to be
Yeah,
on tomorrow?
it's 100% that.
I want to be on tomorrow. So no, thanks. I was just at a Christmas party for one of our companies just a couple days ago, and one of the wives of folks that were there, we were kind of joking, and we had some cookies there, and she's like, "Oh man, I just love chocolate chip cookies." And I was like, "Oh man, I used to really, I mean, I still love them, but I haven't eaten them in about a year and a half. I haven't eaten sugar in about a year and a half,
Well,
almost 2 years." And she was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like, I was like, "Yeah, it didn't. I just figured it didn't serve me anymore." And she was like, "Wow, that's really good. It definitely serves me. It brings me happiness." I was like, "Okay, well, that's great. I think I've got happiness from chocolate chip cookies too." I was like,
yeah.
"Can I ask you a question?" She was like, "Sure." I was like, um, "Did do you get happiness, or can you get happiness from any other place in life?" "Well, yeah, of course." "Okay, good. So what we've now figured out is that you're choosing this happiness, but it's not like it's the only place in life to get happiness. You can be happy without chocolate chip cookies, right?" "Yes." "Okay, great." So now the next level down in the decision making is, I'm choosing this particular happiness. What also am I choosing? Sugar, diabetes, potential cancer. Like, let's go down the list and be actually honest, right? And so,
Yeah.
are you choosing those things also? And she was like, "Well, when you say it like that," well, why aren't we saying it like that? Isn't that just, I mean, so using the alcohol as the example, it's like, do I want to be on tomorrow? Do I want to have a better business? Do I want to have a better marriage? Do I want to be a better dad? Is this going to help me do that? Probably not. You know what I mean? It's pretty easy to
100%.
be disciplined. I mean, this all ties back to discipline. When you can think through a filter of, does it serve me, or is it going to help me get what I want, right? If I've clearly defined what I want, right? If I want to have a big business, or if I want to have a great marriage, or whatever, if I've defined what those things are, then the thing that's in front of me, whatever it is, work late, bring my wife flowers, drink alcohol, fill in the blank with whatever task it is that you're thinking about. Does it help me get there? If it does, do it all the way, like obsessively. Don't just bring flowers, bring 4 dozen, bring balloons and the whole deal. Right. Or if it doesn't, don't do it. Like, it's not even a question. I just don't do it. Right. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's very, very true. It's true about a lot of things, isn't it? I was actually reading a article the other day by Tim Ferriss,
Yeah.
and he was saying about going through your diary and your weekly meetings and looking at the things that gave you in that week energy, and doing what you said, doing more of that. Look at the things that were sucking your energy, put them in one column. Look at the things that were giving you energy and put them in another column. Do more of the things that are giving you energy. Do more, like you said, obsessively do it. Get more out of it, and try and cut off the things. That some things need to be done. We can't get away from doing certain things, but do less of it, or outsource it if you can. Be great. And I think that's another key of really successful people, is they double down on the bits that they can do, and they have the biggest impact on. And ultimately, like you said, that bring you happiness and enable you to enable you to be the best version of you without being difficult. I kind of caveat that with, if things are in your diary like you're having an affair, and that's bringing, like you said, there's two sides to the things of that, but
Yeah.
it's got to be ethical as well. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting concept.
Yeah. Well, Chris, you've got just an incredible business. Where can the listener connect with you? One, if they want to invest and maybe partake in some of your guys' strategies, but two, if they want to connect with you as an entrepreneur, get to know you better, that type of thing, where can they find you? Where can they follow you?
Yep. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So if you type Chris Ball Hoxton Wealth in the search bar, then it'll come up, and that will be me. Hopefully you recognize my face. And if you want to look at our company's website, it's hoxtonwealth.com. For your US listeners, it's hoxtonwealthusa.com. You can just go onto the main website and scroll down. But yeah, it's been really good, and I really appreciate you having me on and taking the time to speak with me.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. We'll put all that in the show notes as well. Blessings to you, your family, your entire organization. You guys are crushing it, and I hope that Dubai continues to serve you well. And enjoy your evening, man. Thanks for being here.
Me too. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Driven to Win. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe: that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.